Welcome back to The Biggish Talk. We break down some of our generation's most influential bestsellers and read them so you don't have to. We're your hosts,
Ira.
Sebastian.
and Harrison.
For today's video, we are going to continue to talk about Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
So we're going to start with the fourth rule. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. And I feel like we all get caught up in this, right? Like, oh, he's got this, he's got X, he's got Y, and I don't. And he's 10 years younger than me, whatever. Some ridiculous comparison. When in reality, I think a certain level of comparison to others is kind of healthy, but very minimal. To any extent past that, it's really unhealthy for your mental state, I feel, and just really growing day by day is kind of the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
For me personally, I find this kind of hard to do because the progress is so little. It just makes me feel like because when I focus on that, it makes me feel stagnant almost, just personally.
Ooh, and give me an example.
Like if I'm comparing myself to who I am yesterday.
Yeah.
So for example, in this season of my life right now, it's very much transitional. So I'm finishing school, or finishing my transfer degree and transferring to another school. But just getting nitty gritty, like day to day, it's the same day as yesterday. And for me, I think what motivates me the most is looking up to the people who I want to be like, and the things that I want to have, and the life that I want to attain. That really motivates me to do more than just like what I am yesterday. It's just a different take on what motivation really gets to me versus what he is suggesting.
Yeah, because another thing that makes it hard is today's society is very much compared on like he said, she said, or who's doing what, Like a lot of the influence nowadays comes from people who are become famous virally, they're like YouTube vloggers and everything. They play a big influence in a lot of the younger generation's lives and what the younger generation goes out and does.
Yeah, the fact that we could see so many people's successful lives through a screen that everybody has, it becomes a lot. I think that's why depression becomes so much greater in today's society because of things like that. I don't think it's the only factor, of course, but I think that's a big reason because we see all these people's great lives, because everyone puts on a face for the camera.
For the camera, yeah.
And then you realize, oh my God, I'm not even close to that. But like Harrison's saying, I think the goal would probably be day by day to be able to see progress, but that's pretty hard. But like maybe you break it down to week by week or month by month, because then you're like, okay, am I better than last month? That's kind of something you can understand, right? You're like, maybe I built a new habit, or I'm doing this a little bit better. But obviously, day by day, I feel like if you really try to get better every day, like you'd work yourself to death by like a week, right? Because
you know what? Something that I do appreciate about this like take on that motivation mindset is that you really do learn a lot about yourself. Because I feel like when we're focused on who I want to be, I only concentrate on what characteristics that I want to attain to achieve that goal.
Sure.
But at the same time, you don't know the characteristics that you have already within yourself. And then this forces you a little bit to dive deeper into why am I not there yet, right? What are some of the things that bother me? What's holding me back? And like, why do I like things? I feel like just understanding purely why you like something tells you a lot about yourself.
And that's the main theme of the book, right? I think it's just becoming very introspective and talking with yourself, like we said in the first episode, having that conversation with yourself. Why do I do this? Like, why did I act this way? Why did this make me feel that way? And I think this is foundational to like a lot of the books we read, like Napoleon Hill. There was a chapter where he said there was like 30 questions that he said you should ask yourself this and answer it. And it's like, I think just a foundational principle for yourself is to know yourself, because successful people know themselves. They can't go on through life without knowing themselves.
Personally, for me, I find this is very key because like one thing that stuck with me is how my dad would always tell me that no matter what you're doing in life or how far you get, there's always going to be someone who has a little better than you. That's why I feel like it's key to follow this rule, because when he says yesterday, I don't believe he means literally the day before, but look back on yourself and who you were before and how far you have come. You know, that's the steps that you want to take, rather than comparing yourself to others and like beating yourself down because you are not able to keep up with others' level of
productivity or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
productivity or progress, you know, because nowadays it's very competitive. Like the stuff that kids are learning nowadays in high school is the stuff that people before were learning in like college. You know, it's
Right.
very competitive.
It's
nowadays.
also just because we
Yeah.
all have the resources now. We all have the internet, which can be a very great tool and also a
Yeah.
very great waste of time, right?
Waste of time.
So the
yeah.
people that are utilizing it to its full potential, the ends of the spectrum become very polarized in that sense, because a lot of people can waste a majority of their lives now through social media or whatever, YouTube, and then a few amount of people also can, you know, be super productive and
Right.
learn
That's-
things outside of the realm of just education.
That's what's good about this rule, you know, because some people, they don't see it as a motivation, as how you were talking, Harrison, as looking at other people, but they see it as something that brings themselves down. They're like, man, how come I'm not like that? How come I can't be there? They don't look back at the positive sides of how far they've come
Right.
from the previous. That's what's good about this one. It helps a person focus in more on themselves. I don't mean
Yeah.
to sound selfish about it.
Yeah, he also
But,
talks about like what you aim at determines what you see. And he talks about how blind we really are, you know, like even just visually, we zone out 99% of our view. And like when I'm talking, I'm looking at you. I don't see, you know, the cup on the table over there. I'm not noticing that. So it's like really you have to set that goal. I think day by day, you have to alter that trajectory little by little, because if it's too far, like you said, you're not gonna be able to see it all the way
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, even just thinking about it now, I feel like for me it comes from a place of like unhappiness. Is kind of when you look at your past a little bit, you're kind of like, oh, you know. But I think definitely taking that angle of, you know, I'm better today than I was a month ago. I think that's definitely what is, you know, hitting home, rather than just focusing on like the fact that you haven't achieved your goals yet. Because for me, you know, in our lives collectively, we're in that phase of going to school and then, you know, hopefully looking for a career afterwards. And I just feel like when I look back at yesterday or last month, it's just kind of like, oh, I haven't achieved what I've hoped to achieve. But at the same time, it's like I've achieved more than I have, you know, my entire life, I guess. Right? Because you're adding to your days,
You're
to
always
your
adding,
hours,
yeah.
always, yeah.
For sure.
So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, like how, for example, if I were to compare myself to you, you know, Sebastian, you've been doing this reading in your free time for a while now, right? Since like the beginning of summer.
Let me tell you a secret. If you read the dictionary, you've read all books.
Every combination of books there is to be.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
If I compare myself to Sebastian, he's read already so many books, and some of the books that we've read in this podcast, he's already read twice.
You're right.
You know, so of course he's gonna look above, and it's like for me, I don't really
It's just
compare
an
it to
area
the
that you're
amount.
working
Yeah.
hard in, right?
But if I look back at how I was before, you know, I hated reading books that I had to read for school, and I would barely read those. But then now here I am reading these non-fictional books, you know, which were made
Difficult reads too.
yeah, difficult reads.
400 pages in a week.
Good reads.
Yeah.
Difficult reads.
I never would have pictured myself being a person to be sitting here doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, speaking
Right.
about a difficult book, and I think we could all agree, like in sixth grade, even in high school, nobody
High
wants
school.
to read, dude. But you learn to appreciate what the book has to offer rather than the text, right?
Right.
It's because through high school you kind of read things you don't really care about, and that's really why.
And then
But it's
nowadays
about
it's
a
just
man
like
on a
reality.
boat.
When you're in high school and middle school, you kind of choose like what you are reading. Versus
Yeah.
now you're kind of like, yeah, this is like, I mean, coming full circle back to your whole analogy on like or internet and how people
Yeah.
can waste time on the internet, right? Well, it's like an escape for a lot of people, like television, like reality TV. You know, we talk about people being the best in front of the camera, right? And it's just an escape. So when we're in high school, when we're in middle school, we read nonfiction books. I mean, I was reading, you know, The Lost Hero, Percy Jackson series, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Same.
It's because it's so much more interesting than me going to school, you know, 7 in the morning and leaving at 3 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Up next, we have do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. I really like this rule.
Tommy, stop being a dick.
I really like this one because
Why do you like this one?
I like this one because like today a lot of the social norm has become more about letting your children do what they want because
Right.
they are a person, they are human, and they have rights
You know
to
what?
do what they want.
You're not even allowed to change their diaper without their consent.
Because
Okay, nowadays we have something called babies. Is like parents allowing their children to choose what gender they identify with. So they call them babies.
But I'm gonna
Yeah.
quote Ben Shapiro on this one: "Is children are stupid." He says this. He says children are stupid. Why should they have the right to decide what's good for them? They don't know what's good for them, or else they would be dead, right? They would be dead if you let them decide, right? Like that's the point of why babies have to be with their mother for a long time, right? That's why we're not adults till we're 18 because we're not smart. That's literally why, right? And I can't believe that people think like letting them do things that make you dislike them would be okay.
I know for sure
Completely
that
agree.
if my parents let me make the decisions that I wanted to make when I was a kid, I would be dead.
Yeah.
Like I was that little
Yeah.
kid who'd watch movies, right? That's a lot of the things nowadays. Like,
Dude, I used to watch WWE, okay, wrestling, and I'll be jumping off my bed trying to do backflips and stuff. And
Break
if
your
someone
neck.
didn't tell me to stop, I'm gonna beat you,
Dude, yeah, I
I'd probably
wanted.
be dead.
One of the key things that I remember wanting to do was grab a blanket and jump off the roof of the house like a parachute.
Like a parachute.
Yeah,
That's a smart
I wanted
move.
to
I like
grab
that.
I wanted to grab the blanket and just go jump off the roof. Right? There's no
I
way my
respect
mom
that.
would let me
Me
though,
too.
and
I
for the right
respect
reason.
that.
I'm glad she didn't let me do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when you read the rule, like it kind of rubs you the wrong way. Like, oh, what do you mean, like dislike them?
Yeah,
You-
people
you
get
can't control everything about your child and da 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 da. But it really speaks into kind of you guiding them and being the parental figure that you are meant to be in their life, rather than them controlling what you do.
Yeah, not only that, he talks a lot about you want your child to fit into society because that's
Mm-hmm.
how they're going to prosper and be successful. They have to get along with others. This is a key point he hits over and over. And, as a parent, you're part of society. So if they do things that you dislike, what makes you think anybody else is going to like it, right? No, they're
Right.
not.
Yeah.
So the point is mainly to rub them the right way, right? Because you're as a parent, like we said, our foundation is based off Christianity and our values, right? And in that sense, you want to rub those values onto the child, or else they're not going to fit in.
Right, and then even taking something from the last episode, us talking about how we are something like the jurors. When I have an idea, I present
Yeah.
it to the jury.
Yeah.
Right, you two. And then if I realize if I can't get one of you guys to like it, then it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
So if you can't get one of your parents to appreciate what you're doing,
It's probably,
it's probably not a
gonna
good
be-
idea. It's
Yeah.
probably not a good idea.
All right.
So moving on, the next one is set your house in the perfect order before you criticize the world.
Yep. This kind of goes back to standing up straight with your shoulders back, right? You kind of, there's a lot of chaos, and you really have to minimize that in what you can control and find order in what you can control.
Yeah. When it all comes down to it, don't waste your time worrying about others, right? Just focus and be the best version of yourself. That's really what it comes down to, all of these rules
Yeah.
and books.
And I also think when he says, like, set your room in order, he also kind of talks about, like, you kind of have to identify where the chaos is in your room, too, in your life, right? Your room.
Theoretically, right.
And figure out what's really not adding value to your life. What are you doing that you could be like, that's a waste of time, or that's not moving me forward, right? So it has to be moving you backwards. So try and reduce that as much as you can.
Try to put it in like something that you can like imagine. For me, I guess I have problems with just getting rid of things that I know that I'm probably not going to use, because in your head you're kind of like, okay, this is kind of old, but I might have a use for it one day. But
You're not, yeah.
but let's be honest, there's no use for it.
Yeah.
Right. And part of clearing that chaos up is you have these habits, or you have these things that you do that are not productive, in your life. And you might think, oh, one day it might be productive, but really it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had the same thing when I was cleaning out parts of the house before. I was like, oh, this might have some use though, because a lot of like my grandmother was she was very resourceful. If something had a value, she would keep it too. If something had a use that you might be able to do something with, she would keep it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how it was for a lot of our previous generations
I
before
agree.
us.
I agree.
Yeah, especially immigrants, right?
Yeah, they
Right.
found the use in everything,
Yeah.
I think diving even a little bit deeper into this is almost kind of looking at it, for me, is I spend a lot of time on ideas that I know probably won't work in my head, and then
Sure.
I find myself revisiting these ideas. I have new ideas I'm thinking about, and I'm going through my day, and then I might have maybe 10-15 minutes of every day I think about like, oh, but what if I did it this way, or what if I did it that way? And I feel like it's just counterproductive, and that 10-15 minutes can be used
Somewhere
towards
else,
something
yeah.
more productive, and just trying to visualize what like cleaning your house, cleaning your mind, cleaning your inside can really kind of be like.
Yeah, for sure. But I also think we need to touch upon the latter part of the phrase is before you criticize the world too, right? There's- Everybody, you know, is gonna criticize, right? But when they don't have their lives together, right? I think that's something that everybody slightly does, and you just try to minimize that, right? Because I feel like there's a metaphor, right, that if everybody clean up their trash, the world will be spotless, right? Everybody
Right.
clean up their own trash, the world will be spotless. So it's like it's kind of that idea in the sense that we can make the world a better place, but not by pointing fingers, you know, by taking the responsibility on our own shoulders.
Looking at it from a more introspective way. I mean, even Grant Cardone is like, you know, if no one hates you, then you're not doing
winning.
anything
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think it's great that he is attacking problems at like the core of where they come from, because everyone produces their own problems, but if everyone takes care of their problems, then it wouldn't affect anybody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's all hard just because of society nowadays. Like that's what you'll find. Society's standards are what hold a lot of people back, you know, and they're worried about other people when they should be worried about themselves. They should be trying to get their own room in order, but they're looking at other people's rooms.
Yeah, because where could
comparing.
problems stem from? From other people not taking responsibility for things that they should be. That's
Right.
the only way.
Right, and I feel like people, something that I struggled with when I was younger too, was I cared too much about what everybody else thought of
Yeah, I
me.
think
You know, and I feel like that's something that everyone has a small bit of, some more than others, but everyone tries to grow and overcome it. But some people still struggle with it today, right? And you know, the same mentality with keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like that. But I also think, you know, you can even take a sense of like to not be hypocritical from his rule as well. You know, like if you're not ready, or if you don't have order in your own life, like how can you even attempt to bring order into the
world.
the surrounding around you, you know?
Definitely. I think that's a great place to close this episode.
All right. Well, if you guys liked anything that we talked about, please leave a like on the video. And if you want us to continue, please subscribe. It really helps us, you know, keep going, tells us that we're doing something right. And if you disagreed with anything, you know, please let us know in the comment sections below. Thank you so much for tuning in for today, and we will see you next time.
But until then, let's go out
And get this bread.